Okay. So the agenda, folks, was attached to the invitation. As the committee doesn't have a chairperson, if it's okay with the four committee members, maybe I'll call the meeting to order and go through the selection of the chair process, and then the chair can take over after that, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, I'm seeing some nodding heads. So I'll call the meeting to order, and welcome to everyone, the panelists, as well as the people attending to watch the meeting. The first order of business is the selection of the chair. And since the committee doesn't have a chair, I will call for nominations. And Daniel, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to nominate Guy Surratt as the chair of the Bridge Subcommittee.
Okay, so we have a nomination for Guy. Do we have a seconder?
I second that.
Steve is seconding that. So Guy, if elected, will you accept the nomination? You're muted.
Is that okay?
That's perfect.
Very good. I accept.
Okay, so I'll make another call for nominations. Are there any further nominations for chair? Third and, oh, Guy?
Was there anybody nominated yet? I might have missed that part.
Just you?
No. Okay. Okay. I would like to nominate Steve Barry.
Okay, nomination for Steve Barry. Is there a seconder? Okay, there's no seconder, so I'll go a third time, call for nominations. Any further nominations?
Daniel Allen.
Okay, I have a nomination for Daniel. Is there a seconder? Okay, no seconder. Now look for a motion that nominations cease.
I'll make that motion.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Nominations have ceased. We only have one nomination for chair. It's Guy Surratt. Congratulations, Guy. And I'll let you take over from this point.
You guys, I have to apologize. I'm a little slow on some of this stuff. I thought I was going to nominate somebody for vice, and that's what I was doing. Gee whiz, jumping, you guys. I apologize. I'm a little lost, but I'll get straightened out after a while. Anyhow, sorry about that. Okay, thank you, Jeff. Thanks for that. Okay, next thing. I'll get on board here after a while. Probably still a little stumped over the mess we're trying to get on. Okay, we're looking now for vice chair. Any nomination for vice chair? Go ahead, Daniel.
I'll nominate Steve Barry for vice chair.
Nomination for vice chair, Steve Barry. Steve, Trevor seconds the nomination. Very good. Any further nominations for vice chair? Any further nomination for vice chair? I say that I'd like to say that nominations have ceased. All those in favor, first of all, does Steve accept?
Yep.
Very good, Steve. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Steve, you're nominated. Nominated. Very good. So we have a chair and a vice chair. Okay, we'll go to number 3 on the agenda, and that's to review the mandate. I would think that maybe Jeff, would I be right in asking Jeff to proceed with that?
Sure. So I put together the agenda, and I do have some information on each agenda item. So I will I'll attempt to share my screen to show you what I have for the mandate of the committee from the terms of reference. Let's see if this works. Anybody see my screen?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. I don't see my screen. So there's a problem. There's a little problem here. Okay, let me stop this. Let's see. So now what are you seeing?
A cute little boy looking at some water. Looks like he's going to PEI.
I wish I could see it. Okay, there we go. Okay, so you're seeing the cute little boy looking at water. All right. Still see the little cute little boy looking at water?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So just because I like to tell a little story, a few years ago, we were headed to PEI and we stopped at the Tourist Bureau just before we got on the bridge and walked down the trail and happened to catch this picture of my son looking out over the bridge. And at first glance, it seems like the boy may be marveling at the wonder of the bridge and the beauty of the situation. In fact, what he was actually thinking about was what's on the other end of the bridge, Cow's ice cream. So I guess the point of telling that little story, and the folded arms, by the way, are frustrated folded arms because we're doing this walk down the trail instead of going for the ice cream. I guess the parallel I would draw here is that what we're really all focused about is what's at the other end of the bridge, but the bridge stands between us and our ultimate goal, which is, in this case, the expansion of Mariner Center. So the mandate. So the mandate taken from the terms of reference is to work with the provincial government to access programming and other funding that would support a bridge service. The service may use existing community facilities for all or part of that bridge. The bridge is defined as offering a service to the community while we work to secure a new facility. This committee, would actively examine and include/eliminate optional service provision for the major services that the YMCA was offering. And the goal would be to restore a service to the community that was fiscally responsible, but also conscious of maintaining the services most in demand/need by the community. So, Guy, sorry, I'll put that back. Would you rather see each other or my screen for the discussion?
We can see the panel. Our screen is split, Jeff, so we can see everybody and see your slides. I don't know if everybody else can.
Is Guy muted again?
Yep.
We can see both.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there any discussion about that?
We want them.
Yes, here. Trevor here, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Mr. Chair, okay to ask some questions?
Okay, sorry, there was something that happened to my unmute button. I'm back on here. Go ahead, Trevor.
So I'm new to the committee, but I just want to, in my own mind, get straight sort of the mandate. So my understanding of the mandate of this committee was that it was to examine options, 275 Main Street and other options in the community, like some folks have been talking about the various pools and in the community. I don't know how usable they are or how much they'd suit the needs. My view probably is not that much, but my understanding of the work of this committee was to, through staff and so forth, was to look at those options in a I guess a systematic way, and to eliminate some options and then be able to come to the main committee, the Mariner Center Steering Committee, and make some recommendations, whatever those recommendations may be. Now, having said that, there's been lots of water under the bridge to this point. Argyle and the town have both chosen to make motions to fund the operations and capital improvements. I guess maybe capital improvements / operations. I'm not just certain which. But the motions have been made. So I guess from my own perspective, and again, I'm a council person from the municipality district of Yarmouth. It seems as though the other two councils have kind of voiced their support of restoration of services at at 275 Main. So I guess my question either to the chair or to Jeff, who's the support, whichever one, whoever would care to offer, I guess where does that leave the committee at this point? Has the work already been done in a sense, or part of the work? Has the decision been made by the you know, to have the services rendered, I guess, at 275 Main, or are we looking at other options? Just where are we in the mandate of the committee? That's essentially my question, because my understanding of the charge of the committee was to look at options. So I'm not sure if we're just looking at options at 275 Main, or if we're looking at other options and we're going to take the time to do that, or not. So some clarity around that point, please.
Jeff, if you, I'll say something, Jeff, first, if you don't mind, and then I'll go forward. I guess from my perspective, what I've certainly been on the committee the few times we've met was, number one was to look at everything possible, but also to look at what the facts are also. What are the facts? Where are we at? And where are we going? I know Jeff had, and I can't speak for himself, but he had mentioned to us at one of our meetings that they had looked at Rod's pool and looked at University Saint-Anne pool. That's why the white caps are there now. That I guess everything to me is still on the table. Everything is still on the table. Myself, as far as this committee goes, I know the decisions our council, Municipality of Argyle made, but everything is on the table for myself right here now. Now, Jeff, go ahead, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, no, I was just going to point out, Guy, that number 4 on the agenda, actually the next item is kind of a review of options. And there are some points within that we may have some discussion about. Certainly, yeah, so that is part of the work of the committee, but it is just part of the work of the committee to identify options and best options. But there is the other piece around securing funding and delivery of service. So let's play it through, go through the agenda, and there may be some additional work required post this meeting, if others see fit.
Trevor, does that answer your question, Trevor?
Well, I'm not certain absolutely, but we'll continue on with the agenda and see where it takes us.
Very good. Okay, then, if
Mr.
there's
Chair?
no any further question, go ahead. Yes. Go ahead, Daniel.
I'm just going to refer this to Jeff. Jeff, could you please send us a copy of the mandate, just so we can have a good copy of it on file, kind of thing, so we can refer to it as we move forward with our bridge?
Yep, no problem. This presentation, or the slides that I'm going to show you today, will all be available, but I will send it out to you all individually as well, no problem.
Oh, thank you, Jeff.
Okay.
Okay, then we'll move up to number 4, if that's okay with everyone, to move to number 4, which is the review of options. Okay. Jeff, maybe you could lead us into that?
Yeah, I'll try to help out there. So this is the discussion slide we just had, a little bit of discussion. So just about the bridge. So the bridge itself is about bridging the gap created by the closure of the YMCA back in June. So when MC Plus, or what I'm calling Mariner Center expansion, opens, the vast majority of the void will be filled with what we're anticipating as a modern aquatic facility, programmable fitness spaces, and community space. But the central element to the whole deal is the aquatic center. Other opportunities that we're adding around it at Mariner Center, and in fact, you might say at the YMCA we're added around it, are about building critical mass, help offset overhead costs, and build enough critical mass that you actually have a viable membership offering. So the aquatic center itself is that central element. virtually all of the non-aquatic activities that happened at the YMCA could be filled at a variety of venues throughout our county. And I'm thinking about schools, fire halls, community halls, service clubs, Legion halls, etc. But the central question is how to bridge the aquatic void left by the closure of the pool. And I just want to pause there because I think if others have thoughts around that, we should have that discussion, because that's kind of where my head has gone, but maybe others have a different idea.
Okay, anybody with any questions? Or I certainly, I'd like to comment first. For myself, if we could just, where we've had so many, where our mandate is to have an aquatic, some kind of a pool, I would suggest why can't we just move over to a pool? Just have a pool like the YMCA or whatever the case may be out there, at this point in time. Because when I look at opening, let's say, the full YMCA, gee whiz, if we go with a fitness center and staffing and all kinds of stuff like that, are we going too big? Myself, at the moment, I think if we could just go with a pool facility where that demand seems to be out there in the public a lot, and I think we have a place to go, already, like the YMCA, or if it's Rods, or if it's University of Saton, or where the AFN has their hotel they're building, then let's look at those options instead of going to a full fitness center with all kinds of staffing, all kinds of costs. That's just my opinion. I'd like to hear from other people out there. Go ahead, Daniel.
So I guess this comes back to just what Jeff was saying. We've got to figure out what service. Obviously, as you pointed out, most of the services provided by the YMCA building at 275 Main Street can be provided in other facilities except for the aquatic. I guess we need to know what aquatic programs we're going to be offering as we move forward. I would think, so that it may be easier if we can access other facilities as far as timeline and having people access things sooner. I don't know what time frame we're looking at as far as the repairs on 275 Main Street, but my main thing is service. That's the key word for me. Services. We need to provide services. So if most of our services can be done through gymnasiums and other facilities, and it's only aquatics, I think that's our main goal right now, to focus on the aquatic aspect and figure out what our best way to provide that service is. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Daniel. Yes, Trevor, go ahead.
Yeah, my understanding from presentations to the Y gave and so forth, and speaking with people in the community, is that really the cost center is largely expenses really in the pool itself. That's the money loser, so to speak. But again, it's what the community wants and needs. My understanding is that the weight room and those types of things actually generate membership and help offset the cost of the pool. So probably it will be more expensive. Just my understanding is it's more expensive to the taxpayer to just open the pool rather than. So my understanding, my view of it would be to have a limited reopening in the sense that, hey, we get a manager in place, aquatics director, that type of thing. Staff can work on that. I think what we need immediately, if we are going to look at the pool at 275 Main, the other pool options, I'm not sure. The committee's been meeting for a long time, but I'm not sure other options have been ruled out entirely. But for my part, I think we need to agree generally to a reopening of the pool, perhaps, and
Did we lose him?
also the weight room and so forth. Limited reopening, but and then
terrible meeting experience.
Your audio connection has been lost.
Yeah, somebody's not on mute. So in any event, I think if we go with the 275 Main Street option, I think the pool and the weight room to start, that's limited staffing. It really the staffing issue is around the pool. You need lifeguards, you need maintenance, all those types of things. With some limited patching of the roof, get the thing open, and you know that's I think that's what the community generally wants if it can be done at a reasonable cost. So that's my view.
Very good, Trevor. Durham was first, and then we'll get Alain after. Durham, is that D-O-R? When I say Durham, am I saying it right?
Yes, Gates, Durham. Thank you.
Durham, thank you. And you might have to correct me a few times, Durham, but that's okay.
No worries.
You know I mean right. Go ahead, Durham.
Yeah, I feel at risk of repeating what Trevor said, I can bring some certainty to your comments, Trevor. When I speak to operators, the model is if you've got a pool, you need to offset those real costs with the membership model. And Guy, just to your points, this in terms of your operating model, it's staff heavy around the pool, it's staff light around all the fitness and other spaces. So other than cleaning and turn the lights on and an attendant, the fitness is almost unsupervised. It's a space to go and work out, and whereas the pool needs lifeguard instructors and the like. So I just want to confirm that, Trevor, and for Guy as well. And then I appreciate that there are other facilities in the community and that they're available. But I just it's an odd question we can answer, but have those facilities become available, and are they getting used by those that were accessing the gym and other drop-in services at the Y? So I know my 13-year-old, he started going to the YMCA before it closed for just pick up basketball. Our 13-year-old's able to gather elsewhere, and where are they gathering following the closure of the Y? Just to validate, yeah, these spaces are being lit up and the doors are being open, and organizers are making these spaces available for our youth in absence of the YMCA. I don't know the answer to that other than sporting teams at schools or minor sports and other club activities which actively organize. But the YMCA was a drop-in space as well for unstructured play. So those 2 points I'd make as part of this conversation.
Thank you, Durham. Next is Alain. Go ahead, Alain.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm not going to repeat the value of membership as in terms of a revenue model. I think that's been well established. I would like to point out a couple of things where we have come to this point on the aquatics question. One of the reasons why 275 remains an option on people's minds, obviously, and on certain councils have already made a decision on that. That's been considerably influenced by the YCAP's position on competitive swimming. There may be other options available in Yarmouth in the hotels for rehabilitation and other forms of pool use. However, there's only one option in Yarmouth that allows for competitive swimming training, etc. I would like to also, and which is obviously, you know, so the decision of this bridge committee, I mean, I imagine would be influenced by that fact. The other thing I would mention is the pool facility itself historically saved quite a bit of money because a lot of the YCAP's individuals provided volunteer time and energy for lifeguarding and other similar services that were provided. So that's the other bonus of having the YCAPs engaged in this discussion, is that they in fact gave a lot of their time and energy towards the pool to lower what would otherwise be a higher operating cost for the YMCA. So I would just want to mention that. So while it is a little bit more staff heavy, some of that is volunteer. Well, or at least historically it was. So I would suspect there would be a strong motivation to continue that, particularly if the 275 is decided as the bridge.
Trevor, thank you, Alain. Trevor, did you have a comment or a point? I saw you. Can unmute?
I know Victoria and Daniel are having connection problems, just to make everybody aware of that.
Okay.
I'd like to mention something before we go any further. Alain and Doran, thank you for those comments. Certainly brought some perspective to some stuff that I wasn't aware of. I know that, and this probably comes to staffing. And again, Daniel, you might shake my head, but that's okay. I'm always here. The logistic, maybe Daniel could answer this. I find that logistic, if we had one space, one place, and if it is 275, it's not, then fine. But the logistics, like having staffing and people chase 3 or 4 pools, Daniel, could you answer that? How do you feel about that? It would make it a lot harder. Maybe cheaper though, I'll admit. What do you think, Dan? Just as a point here.
Well, in all honesty, Guy, I don't have the answer to that.
Okay.
I don't think anyone has the answer to that at this point. We don't have any numbers to support it. We know that the YMCA had a huge volunteer group that worked with it for years, many years, and the cost of operating it was still $750,000 a year. So even with the volunteer group still being there to help offset the cost, it has been there all along. And I'm not knocking that, because Yarmouth, our volunteers in Yarmouth, to me, are far ahead of anywhere else. But I'm biased. I live here, so. But you know, I don't think that number is something that any of us can quantify right now. I guess my whole thoughts are around, let's find our service, look at the costs, and you know, I mean, it's not all about fiscal. I'm not all about being fiscally responsible. I mean, we have to be fiscally responsible, but it's not all about being the cheapest. It's about building a bridge to get us where we need to be. We keep saying it. I just think that we should look at all options, and that's what our committee is here for, to provide the service to our community. If, you know, we can get the rec department involved in it to find out, like to Duran's point about drop-in stations for the youth in the area, if they want to drop in to play basketball and things like that. There's 20 gymnasiums within a half hour of anywhere downtown Yarmouth. You know, there's so many options for different services in our area. The problem we have is the aquatic. The aquatic is the tough question. I know the Whitecaps going to St. Anne's isn't ideal. We don't want to lose them, but in saying that, they know that where we're trying to get to. I mean, I've had conversations with Alex. You've heard them. They all want that expansion. Maybe financial assistance to them to get them there, helping with the cost of the pool so it's not costing their members more. Because obviously, I mean, whatever we were charging to use our pool before was not a winning formula. It's not a winning formula either. So I'm just trying to, I'm not ruling it out. I want to have a wide lens, and I would just like everything put in front of me so that I can make a decision.
Thank you, Daniel. That's great. And I never want to put you on the spot, but I know you're like me. We're not short on words, so we can explain. Jeff, go ahead. I can't hear you, Jeff. There you go.
Yeah, I do have a walkthrough on some of the aquatic options, and that preamble was really about why I'm going to be talking about aquatic options only, is because I do see it as the central element. Whether or not fitness and programming happens around it, that's something that you know, we'll figure out. but the next few slides I want to show you are about aquatic options and what we think we know at this point. But Steve had his hand up, so before we proceed, Guy, exhaust the conversation.
Okay, I cannot
Yes, if
see
I could.
Steve. Go ahead. Yes.
Something Duran mentioned that really stuck out was the unstructured play. I think sometimes when we plan these things, we forget about sometimes our youth at risk or whatnot. Just become an elite swim club, although, you know, we need lifeguards, we need the white caps, we need that there. But, you know, there is a part of the community that probably wouldn't show up to things that are so structured, and working with youth and whatnot, I know how that works. And I think sometimes when you get away with that, you get away from a funding base too that sometimes, you know, we forget about. Sometimes, you know, working with J Strong and other charities around, you know, you can have nights where people sponsor things and kids come in, and that's another revenue generator. And not only that, I see the Y as a foundation to where we're going to move to. So if we have this split, you know, throughout the community, different gyms, different things, I don't think that kind of goes with the plan. I respect what Daniel said about looking at all options. I do think that's important, but I think that the Y is the foundation to when we do move to the expansion, and whatever we build there, we'll be building on when we go. So if you want that to be successful out there, we need to start it now, and I think we need to include all. The other thing is with me, I am open to other options, but I think we have a Y here. I'm an analogy guy, so I feel like we have a car in the driveway with 2 flat tires, and we're talking about, should we take cabs? Should we maybe rent cars? Could we actually fix this, get these tires fixed, and drive us to until we can save enough to purchase that new vehicle, which would be the Mariner Center expansion in my eyes. So that's just my 2 cents on things.
Thank you, Steve. My God, I think you should have been a poet. That was quite an analogy you used there. I really see the picture. Thank you for that. I kind of enjoyed that. But Daniel, don't worry. I'm not saying everything's out. Okay, Jeff, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just had a couple more questions too, Guy.
Sorry. Yeah.
And I agree with Steve on most. And yeah, I agree, Steve. We've got to look, but I still think we look at all things, and if that's the best option, you know, obviously we've got to put our best foot forward, because we have youth at risk out in the municipality too. So, you know, we probably have to look at ways to get those children in there, you know, instead of gymnasiums that maybe are closer to their community that they could access. But same idea. It goes back to what you were saying about having the drop-in sites for the kids and stuff. You know, to me, it's about the kids. It's not always about the building. Should be about the kids, not the you know, if we've got youth at risk in all our communities, and it should be about the kids for sure, and not just about where they're at, getting them to that unstructured play, or, you know, getting them out and getting them out. So, all right. Anyways, enough from me. Go ahead, Jeff. I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you, Daniel. Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay. I'll see if I can make this advance. All right. So, options. Can everybody
Jeff,
see that?
is there a way to zoom in on your slides just a little bit, because the text on your slides is a little bit small.
Okay, well, I'm going to read it to you, but I have to confess, I'm not sure if I can.
May I?
Doran?
For Victoria's benefit, if you're looking at the same frame I am, there's a few icons at the top, and one's a magnifying glass, and you can zoom into actual size, or you can zoom into anything larger you need. I only say that because I did the same thing. I'm at actual size, and you might want something bigger.
Okay, Jeff, go ahead.
Okay, so the options, speaking about Aquatic Center, the indoor pools in our area, the Grand Hotel pool, the new True pool, and the former YMCA pool at 275 Main. Or the other option is leave the area, go to University of St. Anne. So just looking at those options, and I appreciate the print is small, so I am going to read through this, and you will have a copy later to review. We're 8 months into this since the YMCA shut its doors to the public coming in. The community, as we know, is becoming increasingly restless about an aquatic facility, and some people have been going to University St. Anne. There is no financial cost presently to the municipal units for that. However, we know from the swim team that a lower number of their former members have been taking up that option, and I would suggest that even fewer members of the general community are making regular access to University St. Anne Pool. So the swim team have told us they're down to 15 active members, and they do have concerns that in the future they'll actually have no swimmers because there are no swimmers developing to step up into the swim team. So the issues generally around University St. Anne, it's got nothing to do with the quality of the facility. It's just the time that's required to take advantage of it. It is not convenient. There is limited access, as they've told us, only a couple times a week, and they identified cost. Grand Hotel Pool. So we've looked into the Grand Hotel Pool and talked to the Nova Scotia Life Saving Society. So Nova Scotia Life Saving Society, they have always been the folks who train lifeguards in the province, and they also provide lifeguards at our beaches in the summertime and at Ellenwood Park. They also offer now swim lessons as Red Cross and YMCA also do. The Grand Hotel Pool they're very familiar with, and only the very lowest levels of swim lessons can be held there. So you can imagine kind of toddlers or very early beginners where you have to put your head underwater, that kind of thing. Learn some very basic comfort about being in the water and basic strokes. But beyond that, there is no deep end. 5 feet is as deep as it gets. And so you're not very far into your swim lessons before a deeper pool is required. And certainly there's no possibility for lifeguard training in a pool of that size. And again, too small for competitive training at all. Right now, and this goes back, I inquired back in the fall for myself, actually. They were not then accepting new members, and we checked again last week, and they're still not accepting new members, and they don't know when they will be accepting new members. And they are not renting out the pool. So the pool is not available for rentals. It's for the hotel guests and the members that they had prior to COVID-19. True pool, this is an image taken off the internet of it. It is very similar tank to the Grand Hotel Pool. To my eye, it looks a little bit narrower, but same depth in the deep end. And again, same opportunities and perhaps issues is that, again, only the very lowest levels of swim lessons could be offered there. No lifeguard training is possible, and too small for competitive training. And we don't know at this point about availability for community use. That may be a difference between the Grand and the True Pool, is that it may be, in fact, they may be open to some level of community availability. 275 Main Street, we're all familiar with that pool to a certain degree. Again, grabbed this image off of the internet. It's possible to reopen and reintroduce all of the former programming offered by or at the YMCA. There's no reason why any of that programming couldn't be picked up and continued. It would, however, be the most costly option to the municipalities. I don't think there's any getting around that. It could allow for all programming to resume, could allow for continued development of lifeguards, and could allow the swim team activity to continue and to get back to and maybe exceed levels that they formerly enjoyed. So that's as in depth as our analysis has gone around the options, and it left I can say this, and Steve can speak to it obviously as well, Guy, but it left town council with the a fairly obvious decision that if they were going to support aquatic programming, that 275 Main Street was the best option. That was their conclusion. I'll stop talking.
Thank you for that. Jeff, any questions from the rest of the committee? Raise your hands if you have any. Go ahead, Alain.
Just a note on the Université Saint-Anne option, we really only have, by we, I mean the community only has about 3 hours a week access to that location. So while it is the only option other than 275 that allows for a competitive swim training situation, and quite frankly, their pool is set up better than 275 for that. The problem is time. They only have 3 hours a week for the team. And so that is insufficient in order to actually do that competitive style swimming. I should say that's the general consensus around that amongst competitive swimmers.
Thank you, Alain. Go ahead, Daniel.
So just a couple questions, and I'll start with Alain because you just brought it up. So have we reached out to University de Saint-Anne to see if there is more time available?
We have not reached out from the municipality of Argyle's perspective. I would not have reached out on behalf of this group. I know that the competitive swimming team has made multiple requests for increases in time, and unfortunately the answer is that they are limited to 3 hours. I would defer to those that actually asked the question multiple times as to whether there's any hope to do more. My understanding is that the risk is that it might go the other way.
Okay, so we on behalf of the bridge haven't reached out then, Jeff?
No.
Okay, that would be a great conversation to have. I think, you know, that would be part of our due diligence as this committee to reach out on our own. Sorry to hear about the YMCA. I didn't realize you had reached out to them yet, but I'm glad to hear that you have. I was hoping that they would be a little more receptive to the community's needs. If they're not, they're not. They have a business plan, and I'm sure they have to stick with it. How would COVID affect our pool once up and operating?
Go ahead, Jeff.
I'll let Duran answer that because he's been to aquatic facilities last couple of weeks that are operating under the current protocols.
Go ahead, Doran. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have, I would call an operator's answer for you, Daniel, but what I saw in more than one of the visits is, and you saw examples from my photos, people were operating under a limit of about 50 in that space. And depending on what the health restrictions were at a time, they were limiting to 2 swimmers per lane or 1. And that had changed over the course of COVID, 1 to 2 swimmers a lane, and then up to 50 across the entire aquatic center. So I can tell you it is limited, but people are using the space.
If I could, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead. Yes.
I just received a message from one of the Whitecaps parents, and they had said that they did reach out to University de Saint-Anne, and they did not receive any more swim time, and they're not guaranteed even what they have now. So according to them, that's not the best option.
Thank you, Steve. Doran, go ahead.
Just to add to this specific topic, I've read that I've read that the YCAPs with their training, with their weekdays, totaled 9 hours traditionally. So when they're up and running and they have access, they're at 9 hours. And you know, the other booked programming at the YMCA probably totaled about equal that or more. So if we're talking about access for not just training purposes, but for community needs, for lessons and exercise and fitness, it's at least, well, it starts at 20 or 30 hours, I'm thinking.
Thank you, Doram. That's a great point. Any further question? Steve, don't be scared to shout out a little bit because I can't see you. So just say Guy or whatever, Mr. Chair, whatever you want to call me. Doesn't matter. Just go
I'll
ahead.
shout
Yeah.
at that, Chicky. And I appreciate that, Steve, but I still think it still comes back to us as the bridge doing our due diligence. And I'm not trying to take anything away from the Y-Caps parents or anything like that, but they want to be in Yarmouth, and I appreciate that. But I think it's part of our due diligence, it's part of our mandate to look at this. It says it right in the mandate that we're supposed to be looking at other services. So if they're right, I'm glad, and I hope they are for their sake and for everybody else that works out to push us to 275 Main, then that's what we got to push. But it still comes back to it's this committee's mandate to look at all options. And Jeff has taken a really great step forward in looking at like the Grand, and well, True is just opened, I believe. So
It's a very small pool.
Probably experiencing some growing pains right now anyway. I would suspect. I'm sure that's a huge operation, and it's not going to just work like a top overnight. So yeah, the object is to eliminate to eliminate the options and get to the one that we have to do. So I'm just saying our due diligence is to check into that and move forward from it.
I agree, Daniel. All our options are on the table, and you know, whatever we can eliminate to come to a final destination, whether it be 275 or whatever the case may be. Yes, we have to look at it. I guess from here, so the question then would be that we, to be sure I'm on the same page, is that we check back with St. Anne's. Is that what, Daniel, is that what your point was? Just to be sure I'm on the same page?
Well, I think it would be great for maybe yourself and Jeff to have a conference call with, I don't know who with probably Alistair Surratt, Mr. Surratt, and just explain what's going on here and see if there are any options up there for us.
Very good. Thank you, Daniel. Just want to be clear on that.
Mr. Chair?
Jeff, yes, go ahead.
Are we safe to say that the Grand option and the True option are now off the table after Jeff's presentation?
I think that's a great point. I would assume that. Trevor, Daniel, what are your opinions on that, to be sure? That's how I see it.
Well, I guess if Jeff checked into it and they're saying that, I'm going to take Jeff at his word.
Well, you don't even have to do that, Daniel. If you're referring to the capability, like the Grand is just not available. That was a conversation that I had initially, and Lindsay followed up last week. But as far as what the possibility is around programming of a tank that size, I did get that from the Royal Life Saving Society. I did reach out to Paul Dion there. Paul coordinates all of the lifeguards in our area at Milo and at Ellenwood and the two beaches. So I reached out to him, and he happened to be in the area. So we had a great conversation, but I did get an email back from him and followed up by someone else at Royal Life who basically said, unless you're talking about the very lowest level of lessons, there really is not much programming possibility. Nothing around lifeguards, nothing around swim team that you can do with those smaller tanks. So they are limited to what they can offer. And at this point, with the Grand and the soft opening of the True, I'm not sure that they're even an option in the near term.
So I guess, Jeff, I keep coming back to what are we looking to offer? Are we looking to offer everything that the YMCA was offering before? Can we get by with the lower end swimming lessons? This is the question that I haven't had an answer to from day one. I keep asking, like, what programs are we offering?
So let me offer a couple of thoughts on that, Daniel, just from my perspective, if I may, Guy.
Go ahead. Yes, please.
So we've been talking about the Mariner Center expansion for 4 years, and one of the constants within the whole discussion has been a 25-meter tank, a 25-meter pool, and one of the things that kind of correlates with that or coincides with that is the need for a 25-meter pool for competitive swimming. And so the reason that you would be concerned about competitive swimming is because you support your swim team and you value the swim team. It's been around since I think the late 60s when the YMCA pool opened, and the community values that. And so if we're going to hope to have that in whatever number of years it takes to get the Mariner Center expanded, what we're hearing from the swim team coaches, parents, and participants is the St. Anne's option has really affected the level of participation in that. And there is no feeder. That's one of their concerns, is there's no feeder system, that there's no place for kids who are maybe 11 and 12 years old to swim enough to build the strength and confidence to be able to compete when they reach that age, I guess, where they compete as full members of the team. So without a feeder system, your swim team may not exist at the point that you're ready to open your 25-meter pool, which would be a shame after 50 odd years. The other thing is that when you speak about the breadth of programming that we want to offer, so my conclusion is if we're building a 25-meter pool for competitive suitability, that we value the swim team, and so we want to do something to ensure that the swim team is still there when we get to the point of cutting the ribbon on the expansion. The other thing is we're not training any lifeguards in this community this winter. And if we continue to not train lifeguards or to develop swimmers who are capable, strong enough swimmers to become lifeguards in 3, 5, 10 years, whatever it takes to the Mariner Center expansion, we may not have that group of young people who have the training and the skills necessary to either volunteer or be paid staff to actually operate that facility. So again, as far as bridging goes, if we know where we want to go, we want to have this pool that is used day and night by the community, supports young and old in all kinds of activity. Having lifeguards available to us in a few years' time is going to be important. And again, we've lost one season this year with the closure of the pool. So I think that's another programming element that it's important to bridge if we want to be in the business of operating a 25-meter community swimming pool down the road.
Thank you, Jeff. Yes, Trevor, you're next.
Yeah, Jeff makes a few good points there, and I guess conceptually, from my point of view, we're looking at going to an enhanced aquatic center. We don't currently have much in. Obviously, the YMCA 275 Main Street's not open now. It seems as though we're kind of talking about, well, what type of aquatic services do we want in the community? If we're going ultimately to an enhanced aquatic facility with the ability for, kind of regional type aquatic competitions with the 25-meter pool and some of these other, perhaps a therapeutic area, those types of things, all to be yet determined. It seems in my view that we would want to, for the reasons Jeff's outlined, you can always spend nothing on it, and not have a pool, or you could, community folks could go to, a hotel. It doesn't appear that the hotel options are really that viable. I mean, we haven't looked into it. Perhaps that's a good thing. We can get some additional information, but at the end of the day, it just seems as though to me that the 275 Main Street option is the one that most closely resembles what we will have when we move forward, although it will be much enhanced. I guess from my perspective, what folks are telling me in the community is they don't want to spend a lot of money, on the capital side, because we know that the 275 Main Street facility is essentially fully depreciated. We could patch it, keep it open, but what I'm hearing here, or what I think I'm hearing, if anybody disagrees with me, please do so, is that the 275 Main Street option appears to be the only viable option at this point. We can turn over a few more stones, and I certainly do agree with that, but I don't see much other choice. I mean, I can only imagine from the municipality of Argyle's perspective. I mean, if you got somebody in Pubnico and they're on the swim team, going to a little bit different for us. Still not good in Yarmouth. If you live in Pubnico and you're on the swim team, you're an hour away, not a half an hour away from the University of St. Anne. So anyway, all that to say, I think the other two councils, really, to be truthful, have really indicated their support by motion for 275 Main. So I mean, to be honest, I don't know at this point. Really, you'd have to undo your motions to not go to 275 Main. So I don't think that's a reality. So I mean, let's not talk around this issue. Let's talk about what's been done. I mean, let's get on with it. Thank you.
Trevor, thank you so much for that. We'll have Doran next, and then we'll have Ala after. Go ahead, Doran. Yes,
thanks, Guy. And I'll keep saying my name, Duram.
Thank you, Frank. Oh.
And if it helps, I did see Steve's hand go up as well. So I know this is an important topic. So Daniel, you mentioned, what, and this is just my point of view here. I know there might not be a draft business plan in hand yet, but if you do open up a space, I think you need to go back to what community expectations are. Again, I've said this before, I have a young family. Community expectations, I've got a space to get my kids swimming lessons so they learn how to swim, and that's all ages. If we're open for a swim team, then that means that we should be making sure that drop-in space is available for people who just want general fitness and wellness time, access to the lanes so that they can have another option for low impact cardio. You want to open up the space for families to come with their little wee ones and kids and just have fun and unstructured play in the water, monitored by lifeguards. You want aquafit during your off-peak hours for the seniors in your community. So during your daytime hours, you want to have all kinds of sort of rehab or aquafit options to fill those hours that are generally low occupancy. And Trevor mentioned just, there are things you can do with partners like the Health Authority to bring rehab and other options that require water. So if it's open, it's on the operator. The onus is on the operator to maximize your occupancy because a pool comes with costs.
Thank you, Doran. Okay, we'll ask Alain, please, and we'll go to Steve after.
I think Steve was ahead of me, so I'll yield my time. How's that?
Okay, Steve. Sorry, Steve. Go ahead. Thank you, Alain, for that. Go ahead, Steve.
I was just wondering, do we have to make a motion today about what it is we're going to move forward with? Because it does seem to see that at first we were kind of talking about different options or whatnot, but as Trevor just made point two, I think most of us are on the 275 Main idea, and just spinning tires or whatnot. If we're going to move forward with making that motion, is that why we're here today, to say that's what we're going to do? I'm just wondering where we are with that and how we move forward, if that is the option, and that is the option that I would like. And I think if we can make that decision today, we're that much stronger.
Yes, we'll get to that in a minute, Steve. It's a great point, and certainly it's the committee's, whatever the committee's wish is where we'll go. So we'll get a couple of more people to speak, and then what we'll do, we'll get somebody if there's a motion that's wished by this committee, we'll certainly move towards that. Go ahead, Alain.
So I just, I guess from the perspective of information that this group or individual councils would require in order to move forward. We've received information about what things can and cannot be done in different locations other than 275, meaning the hotels in Université Saint-Anne. So I guess I would ask this group, what information do you believe you would be satisfied with in order for us to eliminate options and move forward with a collective decision? You know, we've received information from competitive swimmers. We've received information from a lot of different, you know, responses from hotels around what they can and cannot do. I guess what's the type of information that you need from us as CAOs supporting this group is the first question. And the second question is, like, what type of evidence are you looking for? Is it enough for us to go find it and bring it back? Or would you require a third party information in order to the accuracy of that information?
Great two questions on that. That's great two questions. First of all, what we'll do, I'd like to go to Jeff after this one. He had his hand up, and then we'll come back to that question along with what Steve brought up. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you, Guy. So in putting together this agenda for this meeting, we haven't met since we did a tour of 275 Main back in the fall. We tried December, but December was a bad time because we were post-election. Some members had changed, and the only remaining member I think we had by the mandate was Daniel, who was fishing, of course. So we put it off till now, and here we are. So what I did in putting together the agenda was try to bring to this group the information that the town council had when it reached its decision about where they saw the best opportunity for the bridge. There is some more information further on the agenda here in a financial way that might help others, but you know, I think, you know, just sharing what we have now as far as information, and then Alain's question is a great one, is what other evidence or information is needed for people to either all be on the same page on 275 Main, or is there information that pushes Argyle and the town off of 275 Main?
Thank you for that, Jeff. Wait just a minute, Daniel. What I'll say is this: from my perspective, looking at what's been explained and brought to us here, there's no question, as Trevor mentioned, as Steve mentioned, that I am pushing certainly for 275 from what I see now. You know, youth at risk, the option for the swim team, and other, you know, school programs and that. To me, I don't want to keep on spinning our wheels. We've been going at this quite a bit, but you know, certainly I agree with looking at options. But like Alain said, what is it do we need? Like, are we going to dig and get back to 275? You know, that's a great question. Anyhow, that's my point. Go ahead, Daniel.
Oh, and that's a great point, Guy. And like I said, the Grand was one of our options, and we've eliminated it. We can't send everybody to the university to sign on. I don't know I'm quite ready with Steve. I don't know if I'm quite ready yet to make a motion that 275 is the only option. I'd like to see some, like, as Jeff mentioned, we're moving into, I'm assuming, financial discussion after this. So I still want to see what we're looking at. I guess, Jeff, you're going to have some information for us for that. I would assume. I shouldn't assume anything, but a little bit, yeah. Oh, you know, it's a big investment, so a little bit's better than none. So no, I'm willing. I think as far as the review of options, I agree, Alain. There's no need for a third party. And Jeff has done his thing with the Grand. We haven't checked into the St. Anne, but we can't send everybody there, so it's partially eliminating it. But we still need to know what our fiscal, you know, in the original mandate, it did have a thing in there that if the current location is owned by one thing, then we look at, you know, figuring out a way to help them run it. So more or less, I'm paraphrasing, but yeah. So to me, I think we're kind of beating this to death now. We've heard things. Let's keep moving to see what the money says.
Trevor, before we go there, Trevor had his hand up. Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, just kind of reframing the question in a sense, because we talked about a lot of things, which is fantastic. So really, I think, in all honesty, the question's not about 275 Main or other options. Pretty clearly, the other two councils, I mean, let's be honest about it, made motions saying essentially, and correct me if I'm wrong, that 275 Main Street's their choice. People don't contribute $75,000 plus to. I think the decision's been made by the other two councils. I think really, practically, the decision is for whether or not the municipality of District of Yarmouth at our council table chooses to participate or not. I don't think the other, I'm trying to make this trying to outline this issue in terms of what has to be done or not done to or move forward. So I guess we've got two councils saying that they want to go to 275 Main. I think I'm correct in that. If I'm not, that the die's been cast on that. The other options, truthfully, don't look as though they're workable. Maybe people can go there on their own accord. Doesn't look like really, the hotel pools are really viable options. I mean, I know I've been a Y member and I don't swim laps lots, but I know lots of people like to swim laps, like to do triathlons, which are rec departments sometimes organize, or have a part in organizing. All those types of things. I mean, it's not only the Y caps that use it kind of for competitive or semi-competitive purposes. It's community folks, people that do triathlons, people that want to swim, lane swim for fitness. I mean, there's no possibility of swimming in a small pool in a hotel for fitness. I mean, it just doesn't work, right? I mean, that's not what it's for. You can't turn around. So short of sort of low level, either kid stuff or low level or therapeutic, not that that's low level purposes, you might be able to do a little bit in the pool. But again, I'm doubting. We haven't turned. I think the stone should have been overturned or turned over. Sorry, earlier. I mean, this committee's been meeting for a long time, and I know I'm just coming to it, so I'm not. I don't know what went on before, but apparently we don't have all the answers. But having said that, I'm thinking that we to Daniel's point, it's very, very important. The financial piece is the critical piece. So I think programming wise, as far as deciding the pool issue, I think it's pretty clear that what we want to do if we're gonna bridge to the new Mariner Center or the Mariner Center upgrade, we need something that is at least somewhat comparable to that in terms of functionality. Those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Trevor. Okay, Jeff, go ahead. We'll move to number 5 on the financial.
Okay. Okay, my microphone is on. Now I gotta get a view back to my screen here. Okay. So let's see now. Everybody see one that says financial now? I can't see you.
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I can't see you and see the screen, so when I ask for feedback, at this point, I'm gonna need more than just nods. Thank you much.
Very good. Good, very good to go.
As a point.
Doran, yes.
Oh yeah, it's just a small point. For next time, it's clear that we're getting used to a new interface here or version of GoToMeeting. I think you're in presenter's view, Jeff. So just we can see the next slide and your notes. So we can see the main slide, and then we can see the next slide coming up and your speaker's notes. So I think you're in a presenter's view.
Okay.
Just as an FYI, if you.
Okay. All right. Well, sorry about that. I wish I knew how to change that because I have no notes.
Still very clear. It's still very clear. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll just proceed. So I want to say, first of all, as a wise counselor once said, it's not a bottomless pit. So the money does matter, and we need to understand it. And what we understand today, and I'm going to go through a little bit of that, is is at a high level, or it's not detailed. If we agree on what the bridge is, then at this point, let's say that we agreed that we're going to proceed with 275 Main, there's work that needs to be done to figure out exactly how to do it, right? It's not just what to do, it's how to do it. And in the how to do it, you're going to get into developing a business plan and developing your program delivery, and you're going to get to the financial reality of what it will take. And probably you'll also have identified other sources of revenue besides what, you know, the three of us can put on the table, three municipalities can put on the table, and you'll get a clearer picture. But that's a lot of work. And if you don't decide which direction you're going to go, then it seems like you could be doing a lot of work in a few different directions. And so I think the next decision, the decision that Argyle and the town have made, is to proceed. It is not a done deal until all the I's are dotted and the T's crossed in terms of what will this cost and how will we do it. I just want to say, don't expect to have all the answers here. It's just some of the financial issues. So this slide is about the YMCA's revenue past. And I showed this slide to town council a couple months ago. And it basically breaks down the YMCA revenue in three big categories. The big black blob, as I like to call it, that's membership. And that accounts for the lion's share of the YMCA revenue consistently over this 5-year period. Above that, the gray band is what they generated from fundraising. And I refer to it here as net lottery because that is essentially their fundraising revenue over that 5-year period. And finally, the green band at the top is the municipal contribution. That is consistent over those 5 years, and it is what the three municipalities provided to the YMCA. The reason I'm showing you this slide is that if you think about membership really matters in the operation of the facility and the delivery of services down at 275 Main Street. And that is why I think that the other spaces, the programmable spaces, the fitness stuff is so important to opening that facility, is it gives you a viable membership offering. If you do just a section of an opening, then, you know, obviously someone's got to take a deep dive into what costs you still have and what revenues might you be left with. The fundraising band should be a little bit of a note to self here, or to ourselves here, is that we need to have a fundraising plan that accompanies a reopening. Otherwise, that band disappears. And finally, you know, our past has been that we had consistently provided a level of municipal funding, and I'm just going to suggest to you straight up that's probably going to increase if those other two bands are not maintained at or about the same level as they were in the past. So the 2020 budget that the YMCA had presented, and again, I'm looking at the revenue side of things because that's where the municipal money was to come in. They had, we all know this, they had asked for $200,000 as a municipal contribution. They had anticipated doing $150,000 in fundraising. And again, their membership was to be consistent and so it's not just membership, sorry, it's programming and rentals included, but membership is by far the biggest part of that. Another $450,000. So they were looking at a budget of $800,000 for 2020. Excuse me. So what have we done? What have we done around determining what help is out there for us? Well, we've talked to the province. Excuse me. We've talked to the province, and you know, these discussions led to a very clear understanding that Communities, Culture, and Heritage was interested in leaning in and helping us look at programming opportunities where they could support the funding or the revenue for the facility. Nothing concrete. We made no applications because, frankly, we didn't know. We don't know as of this moment, are we opening 275 Main Street and what the programming offerings might be. So it was premature to actually apply for money, but we certainly got the impression very clearly that they were supportive. Community fundraising. Well, we know there have been people asking, and maybe some of you have experienced it, the community asking how can they give money to see this reopen. And we have not done any community fundraising because, again, there's been no decision about the opening, and that would be premature. But certainly hearing that from the community gives you some level of hope that some fundraising would be successful. And finally, the last bullet here is corporate interest. We've been approached by a national corporation present in this community that does have a foundation associated with it, and they are very interested in, locally, they're very interested in supporting us in making application to that foundation. Again, nothing guaranteed, and certainly there's support locally, but these are all kind of reasons to have some level of hope that we wouldn't be carrying the entire burden on the municipal taxpayer and whatever we're able to generate through user fees or memberships and so on. And finally, there are communities surrounding us, and I'll say municipality of Barrington, maybe down that way there's some interest. I don't know about Clare, and I don't know about the Acadia First Nation, but there are other communities surrounding us besides us, 3 municipal units that may be willing to participate in the future if solution. So just quickly pivot to a second to the future and the capital expansion of Mariner Center. That's trending towards a 25 and maybe even a $30 million project. And operations of a similar scale are costing about $1 million annually to operate. I'm thinking about Truro, thinking about New Glasgow, thinking about Bridgewater. Their financial statements reveal that their net operating cost to their municipal supporters is on average $1 million. And so, if we're willing to work and commit to the expansion, and we're willing to commit to whatever the future operating cost will be, then there's some, I guess, some solace or comfort that whatever happens at 275 Main Street, if we were to reopen it, the cost is going to be less than what it will be when we open the Mariner Center expansion. We are going to do that, and we're all going to face a different financial reality in that day. But for now, we have an opportunity to bridge most of those services to get our community from here to there at a cost that in retrospect, although looking forward from where we are today, with what we've put into the YMCA historically, it's going to be more. But when we look back from our position in the future, when we're on the other side of this bridge, it will be less. So how do you feel about how we would do relative to the former YMCA? Do we assume that that 200,000, the former municipal contribution, is the minimum, or could it be 500,000? We don't know what the membership response will be. We don't know what these other avenues will necessarily be, and so work needs to go into figuring that out and fine-tuning the range of possibility of what this could cost our municipal units before we move forward. An operational plan needs to be developed. And until we're into it, we really can't know for certain. And then finally, the great uncertainty of all is COVID-19, right? We don't know exactly what it will be. And it's just a sober reminder what's happening in Newfoundland right now is we can move forward with all great intention, and the wrong thing can happen and set us back from whatever plan we make. So just an observation there is that there's no certainty, and this is as close to understanding the financial side of it as we can be. And since you can already see it, I'm going to bring up my final slide, which is why not open 275 Main Street? Well, there are a couple of reasons why you might not. Would it affect the funding for Mariner Center expansion? We had the opportunity to meet with TIR, all of us did last week, and we asked that question because we knew it was a concern. If we open 275 Main Street and suddenly our community has a level of service again, are they less interested in our application? And the answer we got was no, right? They didn't see that as being impactful on their consideration of an application that we get in there for the expansion to Mariner Center. And the second question is the town only interested in a downtown solution? And the answer to that is no. The town had a meeting back early in this and realized that if there was going to be a new aquatic facility, a replacement of the former YMCA services in this community, there was only support for one location among the 3 municipal units, and it's on Stars Road. So the town initiated the steering committee for MC Plus. They participated in the DMA work as much as any other partner, and they committed as much as any partner to all of the Mariner Center expansion work, and will continue to. The town is committed to the Mariner Center expansion, but also committed to serving the community the best that we can in the interim. Finally, I know this is getting ahead a little bit, Guy, so maybe I'll stop. That's the next agenda item. I'll stop and others can talk.
Jeff, thank you for that. That's a great presentation. A lot of information there, but it certainly puts a lot of stuff on the table and certainly answers a question sometimes that I've posed in my head. Is the town committed to the Mariner Center, which I always thought they were, but you've really put it on the, right on the line there. I don't doubt it. Okay, to everybody else out there on the committee, any questions on that presentation? Go ahead, Alain.
A question for Jeff. I know you were the lead contact for to communities, culture and heritage, and other provincial departments that expressed an interest to assist in the bridge. Is there a status update on their interest here? And if they do have an interest, is it operational or is it to improve the capital that we know there needs to be some capital invested in that facility? So I guess that the question is, where are they on this?
Okay, so to answer your question, capital would be a problem. Capital was identified locally by our political representatives. It was confirmed through Communities, Culture and Heritage. Getting involved in putting capital money into this facility could become politically problematic when we show up with an application to replace it. So, are you spending good money after bad would be the question, right? So if they put $1 million into Main Street, it's going to be hard for the government to then make a decision to put that aside and put millions into the Mariner Center expansion. So I think we have to realize that the door is closed provincially on capital for 275 Main Street if we want to do an expansion. So that's it. It's closed for capital. On the operating side, we had a conversation back, and this dates back to our discussions with Minister Goulveen and Zach that we had a while back, followed up with calls to Communities, Culture and Heritage, as well as Department of Seniors, and there was support. They were willing to be, supportive of operational requests. There was no indication of what that number looks like, but the support was clear. In our meeting with TIR last week, Transportation Infrastructure Renewal, that level of support was acknowledged by them at that meeting, that in fact, they understood that doing something at 275 as a bridge was not foregoing an expansion, and that they understood the government was still supportive of finding ways through their programs to help us out operationally.
Thank you for that, Jeff. Great point. Any other questions or comments from the committee? If not, Trevor, did you? Yes, go ahead, Trevor.
You're muted, Trevor.
Unmute.
Sorry about that. Just wanted to make a statement that while it's becoming clear to me, my opinion is that we could have probably had more information about some of the options and those types of things, but it's becoming clearer and clearer that 275 Main is probably the option to recommend to the Mariners Center Expansion Committee. So I'll make that statement. Guy, I won't make a motion at this point. I know you had something to say, but I'd be willing to entertain an option shortly. I'll let you speak first.
Very good. Thank you, Trevor, for that. Anybody else? I can't see Steve, but if he's there, go ahead, Alain.
Sorry, I did have another question about fundraising, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I wanted to let the others the opportunity to speak first. So we know that the Y12 lottery with the closure of the Y was shifted to, was it the Tri-12 lottery, I believe it was called? What do we know about that fundraising option? My understanding is that if the YMCA or something like the YMCA was to return, that the lottery would revert back to the YMCA. So I'd like to understand whether that is a true statement or not, or whether we have investigated that in any way, shape, either in our political contacts or administrative contacts.
Jeff, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I can say that I've never heard that it would revert. I assumed, and maybe incorrectly, that the organizations who picked up that fundraising opportunity made their own application to the Lottery and Gaming, got their own license, and are operating their own fundraiser. I do know that they arranged to acquire two things from the YMCA in support of that. One was a metal drum to put tickets into and mix them up, and the other was a big wheel to spin. They do some weekly prizes or something there, or anyway, there were a couple of assets that were acquired from the Y, but the license itself would not have transferred as much as they would have had to have their own license, I would assume. But again, I haven't looked into it.
Thank you, Jeff. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Well, you just posed an interesting question to me, Alain. When did the YMCA become a factor in this again?
I don't have that information. I was just making a presumption. If there was a return to YMCA or similar service, there may be a need for fundraising. So that was the nature of the question. We've had no discussions with the YMCA in any way, shape, or form. The YMCA Yarmouth does not exist. Any conversation that we would have with the YMCA would have to come at the permission of this group, I would suspect. And number two would only be with the YMCA Halifax, is what I'm presuming, because the YMCA Yarmouth is no longer in existence. So the nature of my question was, if we're going to operate this thing, we're either going to operate it as a municipal organization or a nonprofit organization that runs it on our behalf. And that was the nature of my question.
Okay. Yeah. No, it just, the way it was phrased, it just seemed like the YMCA was going to be. So that brings us back to another question. But I guess that gets us down the road once we decide if this is the way to go, is to how do we operate it, I guess. And that would kind of be towards you, Jeff. Have you had any thoughts to that?
I have some thoughts, Daniel.
You're welcome, Jeff.
I didn't hear that, but that's okay. Okay, any other further questions or comments? If not, I think, I believe I'm getting the feeling from the group that that there is a place for a motion. I think, Daniel, did you have something?
Guy, I was just kind of waiting for Jeff. Did you have any information as far as that, Jeff? Is that something you can answer? Have you looked, as it being your building and you've kind of looked into, the costs and things, have you guys been looking into how it's going to be run or who would be running it? Has there been any conversations as far as that goes?
Yeah, so I can speak to that, Guy, if it's okay.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so my assumption, from the beginning here, I mean, there's several different options you could go with. You could operate as a municipality. You could operate it as a society, create a new society. You could contract. When we purchased the building from the Y, one of the conversations, and it was very brief, that Daryl and I had is Daryl asked about the possibility of the YMCA in the future, and I said, well, you know, you never know what the future holds. And I kind of put it back to him, you know, what do you think that would look like? And his opinion at that time, and this is going back at least 6 months, was that you'd probably be looking at something like the Halifax YMCA, subcontracting or doing some work. It's not too different from what Port Hawkesbury had. They had a relationship with the Cape Breton or Sydney YMCA. So that's as far as that went, but that's an option. But my default or my favorite in this, as we've thinking about this, is that Mariner Center, if Mariner Center is going to be operating the aquatic center and the programming facilities at Mariner Center in a few years, picking up from where we leave off with the bridge, then it would only make sense to me that whatever you do today about the bridge in terms of how, it should be how you're planning to do it post Mariner Center expansion. So don't even think about talking to the YMCA if in a few years when you open the expansion, you're not planning to have the YMCA. On the other hand, if you're not planning to have Mariner Center operate the pool and programming areas, don't get them to do it today. Don't set, you know, so whatever you do today should be what you're going to do in the future when you have the expansion, so that you're only hiring the staff, developing program, developing policies, membership models once. You do it at 275 Main Street. If you're going to reopen that, you learn through the next 3, 5, whatever number of years, and you transfer your members, your learning, your program, the whole thing to Mariner Center expansion as soon as possible.
Those very, very great, good points. Daniel, any further? Like to question or comment?
No.
Right.
No.
Are you good with that for now?
I think so. I think you kind of talked around me there.
Oh, all right.
No, I got it. I think I got it anyways. I was just curious if that conversation has been going on, I guess. It just seemed to me that in conjunction with Alain's question, it just, you know, but if it's 6 months ago, you're talking to Daryl, then that's one thing. So
the only communication, so Daniel, just to be crystal clear, the only communication I've had with Daryl about that was about 6 months ago. And my more recent conversations with Daryl have been all around the closure of the organization. So when we bought the facility, we paid $250,000 for it. And that was a price that they established, looking at what their obligations were for unfulfilled membership, staff, severance, whatever. They estimated $250,000 with the understanding that if it came in slightly below that, they would return to us by way of grant. Amounts remain in their bank account, and there was some money left there, and they did return it. And so that's what our communication's been about. There's been no conversation about YMCA as it relates to a reopening or Mariner Center.
no, that's great, Jeff. Nope, appreciate that, Jeff. Thank you very much. That just comes back to transparency on all of our parts, you know, just to make sure that everything's you know, above board and ready to go. Like I said, I mean, you know, we're looking at 275 Main Street. I'm pretty much, it's looking like that's where we're going to go, and I'm almost set that we could probably make a motion to recommend to the steering committee that 275 Main Street be used as a central piece of the bridge. I guess we'd have financial caveats in there to make sure, you know, it can't be a bottomless pit. I'm not sure how to, obviously, I mean, you know, and yeah, that's the way it's, so you know, obviously we've got to start doing some next steps as far as knowing exactly, I mean, we'll never know exactly, but having a really good idea of what this is going to cost us and each municipality. I mean, you guys put forward 5,000 and Argyle put forward 75,000. I'm not sure exactly if you guys had motions to say exactly what that money was to be used for. Was it for capital? Was it for expenses? Because obviously that number is going to increase. That 75,000 isn't going to get us far. Even if we put in the 75,000, it's not going to get us very far. So I see both GAOs hands going. So yeah, here we go.
I'll first of all, I'll let Alain answer that one first.
My hand was up a nanosecond earlier, just for the record. The 75,000, Councillor, is not going to cut it. I mean, how far it goes depends on how many partners and depends for how long. That's basically the ultimate answer from my perspective. There's no allocation of capital or operating in the motion. We have to work with the owner, which is the town, to determine what that looks like. You know, my engagement to the motion isn't just to cut a check. My engagement is also to work with the town in any way possible to set the financial stage so that we're all not spending more than we want, because none of us want to spend more than we feel like we need to, and we need to, and that highlights the importance of a very good plan prior to opening, and I would suggest a strong promotion to get a membership base going, which is critical. If you looked at the if you saw the presentation by CAO Gushu, it was very clear that half of the revenue was derived from membership back in the day when the YMCA operated it. So it's critical that we get to that or close to that number. So yeah, I guess that's the long answer to your question, is that there is no restriction to how it's spent, capital or operating, and we're pretty sure that's not going to cut it for long. So it's basically, I think the intention of the motion, if you'll permit me, Councillor and Chair Surratt, is that we needed for the owner to understand that they weren't alone in setting up a bridge at that location. I guess council hoped, and as a collective, that this would accelerate one way or another where this thing ends up as a bridge. So that would be, I guess that's it.
Okay, CEO Gushu.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of work to be done because, and I assume that part of this money can be used to assist with getting that work done, developing a business plan and so on. I've told you what I think my preference has always been around the bridge as well as future operation. You know, if there are multiple ways we can go, and I think that's next steps. We need to know, do we have three parties leaning in on that? And if we do, we come back together as the bridge committee and we talk about the how. How are we going to do this? And if it's tasking Mariner Center to undertake some work and get back to us in 60 days with a business plan, a budget, and a program, then we do that, and Graham does all the work. You know, but we need to think of, yeah, we need to think about that, right? And I have on my next slide here kind of suggesting that if the District of Yarmouth were intending to join us in this, then make the same or similar commitment, right? It's $75,000 as an initial investment, and there will be other stage gates in this process. You know, for instance, if Durham comes back with a ridiculous model and we can't afford it, or you know, there's a different financial reality, I think we need to then be prepared to make additional decisions. You know, these kinds of decisions. And then move forward. I think, and I've told council this, that September 2021 is a target, because you're getting back into your post-summer, you're getting into the fall, people are thinking about moving indoors for swimming, that sort of activity. It's possible you could do some sort of soft launch ahead of that, but there's a lot of work to do before you get to a soft launch. So that's just my suggestion. If this committee was going to recommend anything, maybe it's to ask Modi to do exactly what Argyle and the town have done, and to move forward together.
Thank you, Jeff. Doran? Unmute.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. So just jumping in around costs and way forward, I do want to share, and several of the folks here were part of my introduction to the Mariner Center, part of the panel that interviewed me. And when I sat down, the YMCA closure had happened a few months prior, and it was part of the story in the room. It was on the horizon around the need for a bridge, and it just putting my business hat on. If we're here as a bridge committee talking about the immediate need to bring a pool back on 275, and ultimately look at ultimately have an outcome of a future aquatic center, we should be looking at all efficiencies to support a successful outcome of both. And I see a lot of practical reasons for the Mariner Center role there. There's a few things that jump off the page. I'll mention them quickly because I know we're running out of time. But it accelerates our transition here into one that is not just booking space, but creating and executing on programs, fitness programs, wellness programs. I think that there's a lot of efficiency to be found in the operating model. When I do tour other facilities, there's a focused effort to cross-train roles at the operators and maintenance and cleaning staff level. So when you look at an operating model and an org structure, you've got less than a kilometer away, there's probably a shared model there across those two sites. And then it moves us to the learning we need and the competencies we need to be ready for when we do cut the ribbon on the expanded facility. And I say that, it's already been said, but there is an alignment of incentives there around cost. So if the municipalities are tasked with some of the operating grant support, getting to that expansion sooner rather than later with the bridge under the fold of a Mariner Center operating model as aligns incentives, I think, and marches us to that goal with more focus. So I'll just say a few points there in terms of my initial thinking, listening in on the conversation.
Thank you, Doran. That's a great point. Trevor, go ahead.
You're muted. You're muted, Trevor.
Unmute. Yeah.
I'll learn to do that eventually. Just to, I'm ultimately, I will make a motion in a moment, but about the way forward for us. But having said that, I'd just like to address the comments of CEO Gushu. I'm an elected member, deputy warden, municipality district of Yarmouth, and moving forward on this committee and others, I don't appreciate any staff member from another municipality making recommendations to our council. Those recommendations come from our CEO, Victoria Brooks. Just a matter of process about what we should or shouldn't do or in the future. Those are for the municipality district of Yarmouth to debate and decide and communicate to this and other parties. So that's my comment to start. So I appreciate that not be the case in the future. Having said that, I'd like to move that this committee recommend the Mariner Center to the Mariner Center Expansion Committee the 275 Main Street location for programming the bridge moving forward.
Very good, Trevor. Thank you. Would there be a seconder?
Second it.
Steve.
And it's been seconded by Steve. Okay, you know what the motion is. Is I think does Lindsay, are you all set with that?
I have a couple comments on the motion, Guy.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Daniel.
No, just for discussion purposes, to the motion. So again, I'm going to go back to what Jeff said a minute ago. So Trevor, your motion is to recommend that 275 be looked into. Is it to look into or just to use? Because I want to make sure when I'm voting on this, because like Jeff said, if we all put a little bit of money into it and then find out that the budget is unreal, Jeff's doing thumbs up or thumbs down. I don't want to give the community the wrong impression that this is it. We're going ahead. Everybody's woohoo, the YMCA, and then we find out it's a huge bunch of money, and maybe we can't afford to do this. So I guess I'm just asking out of the motioner.
Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, just to clarify, the motion is should be interpreted as it's been presented. So it does only that, nothing else. It just makes a recommendation to the Mariner Center steering expansion committee to look at essentially, or to focus on the 275 Main Street location for the provision of services for the bridge. Any financial commitment, of course, needs to be taken to each one of the councils, because each one of the respective councils, of course, are the only bodies that have the ability to fund. So just to be clear, that is the extent of the motion. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Trevor.
Very, very good. Any other comments on the motion that's been presented on the floor?
So call the question.
Okay, question called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Raise
Aye.
your hand. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. So we have a mandate to move forward to get some, I guess, some according to the motion, to come up with some numbers or some direction, I guess, of how to move forward. And I would think that should be. I think I'm right in saying this. With the next move, we should know if the municipality of Yarmouth is on board. I would think, once we get to this next step. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Go
I
ahead,
believe
Stephen.
yeah, I believe that the recommendation that we have here will go to the main committee as well. So the main committee will be made aware of this, and of course the municipality of Yarmouth in its decision on funding and commitment is their own.
Yes, very good. Thank you for that, Alain. Okay, Jeff, did you have any other points to bring up further on your presentation, or were you? I thought you had one more slide or something.
Yeah. See what I had here. Yeah, okay, sorry. I have to share my screen again, try that. Yep, so just simply that is identifying options for operations, and we talked about that already, and I think, yes, there may be further discussion, I don't know, but obviously we need to talk about intermunicipal funding, what the agreement looks like to use 275 Main, and all that's meant by that, don't read too much into that, all that's meant by that is that we've talked about already that there's no capital funding coming from any other level of government. We do know that there is some work that will be needed to the facility over the next 5 years if we operate it that long, and how that will be funded. We need to talk about that. And then finally, as we've just talked about in terms of the next step, there needs to be a business plan developed. And there is an approval, there is another future approval that includes an operating budget that falls with that. So that's all, Mr. Chair, that I had.
Thank you very much. Okay, any other business that we may have or comments?
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Yes, go ahead, Steve.
Two things that have been raised from the public. Just number one, these meetings are supposed to be public, so I had some people message me last night and said that they couldn't access the link for this. So if there could be a place that this could be placed on, prior more than 24 hours, kind of to give the public who wants to be engaged heads up. And number two is, I know we as Yarmouth Town Council use this platform and some people use Zoom. It was suggested that we stay on one platform and maybe not jump back and forth. So just wanted to throw that out there too, as that was a concern from some citizens. So.
Thank you, Steve. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, so this is GoToWebinar. It's slightly different than the GoToMeeting format we've used in the past, and Lindsay was learning it as recently as a half hour before the meeting started. And the benefit of this platform is much like Zoom in the Zoom webinar, is that you're able to just have the 7 people that we have on the committee visible and part of the discussion. And there are several others who are watching the meeting and who are attending, but the link wasn't available until this morning when we figured out how to use the platform. So that won't be the case in the future. We'll have the links available for the public, and they'll be able to be all set.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you, Steve, for the question. Okay, other business? Anything on other business? Daniel, go ahead.
Just a couple comments, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how my council will react to, I shouldn't say react. We are going to be in favor of building a bridge. We've said it from day one. So when you ask about our commitment is there. I'm not sure when we'll make a motion on funding. I personally, and this is just myself speaking for myself as my councillor, I would like to see some type of numbers before recommending to my council. Trevor may feel differently. But as this moves up through, I just want you to be aware that we are in support of the bridge, Mr. Chair. There is no question that our council is in any support of the bridge. I know as we sit here today, it seems like I'm on one side of the table and the rest of you are on the other. I believe in dotting my I's and crossing my T's. This isn't a political spiel for me. Anybody that knows that I'm pretty straightforward anyway. We want what's best for our community. I think we all do. And this is starting a process. And hopefully this works well and we can get things moving quickly. I'm sure Jeff will be doing his due diligence and getting a business plan and things in place. If he hasn't already in his back pocket, ready to go. But we know where we're at. I do believe that from the Bridge Committee also, you guys also had the MCW AmeriCorps redo I think we should also, I don't know if I need a motion for that, or that should go up to the Mariner Center Expansion Committee and then on to all councils to make sure we all have the same information. And I would like to see that distributed as well, please.
That was distributed back in November, I think, but the AmeriCorps thing. So just Daniel, to your point on the business plan. I don't have a business plan, and I won't be creating a business plan. I don't have the time, bandwidth, or expertise. So that's part of what some funding is going to be needed for. Is we're going to need some help with this work, and so I just ask you to consider that part of how we get to where we need to be is bringing in some expertise to help us.
Okay, so this goes to my point, Jeff, as to like as far as I'm concerned, again, without an ask, our council or myself anyway, I have a hard time just giving money without some type of ask to know where it's going. So if there's money needed for that process, that's where I think this committee should be recommended to the expansion committee to ask the councils. Now, both your councils have already given. We have no idea what that money was for, the $75,000 that it was for this. So now at least now we're starting to see where the ask is coming from. So I guess that's all. And as far as the AmeriCorps thing, it may have got distributed, but I believe when we did our mandate, we had channels and it came up, I'm sure, so far. But we've been trying to follow the process. We've been taking a lot of flack for following the process, but we have been following it. And I just want to make sure that this is part of the process. So I know if it's in our CAO's hands, she will distribute it to us in accordance with, but we're just looking, again, when it comes to looking for the ask, ask is the main thing to me.
Go ahead, CEO Muse.
So just for clarity on the municipality of Argyle's position and the decision of 75,000, we did not receive an ask for that. What we did was we looked at the YMCA operations. We looked at the most recent requests for funding. We had at the time committed $50,000 to the YMCA. That was in fiscal 2021, this fiscal. That was, of course, prior to their closure. So based on that, the discussion and the analysis involved going back to the YMCA operations, understanding that membership is likely to be lower, understanding that there will be a startup cost, and understanding as well that there will be a lack of or even partial fundraising, all of which are uncertain. So the establishment of $75,000 was two things. One was an understanding that it's likely going to be more than that, and over the course of a year or two, obviously. And secondly, that it was based on an internal analysis that we would have done as part and parcel of the information we would have received from the Y. So we did not receive an ask from anyone for that amount. That was where the number was established, and so, you know, presumably the 75,000 has flexibility, and in some cases could be used for the engaging of a third party for a business plan, for instance.
And that's fine, Al. Your council may do things a little different than our council, and everybody's entitled to that. I think I would just say, like us, we just like to see a little bit of an ask. I know a few of our councils are curious as to where the money is going, so that when people ask what the money's for, we can actually have an answer. That's all I was trying to say. So no, other than that, I'm good. We can move on and keep on going.
Yes, the motion was passed, and certainly we are moving forward. Thank you, Daniel, for the comments and questions. And from here, I guess we'll, anything else on other business? If not, date of the next meeting, what would we say would be a good date to give time for some of the items we've talked about to be done, so we can bring some things for our next meeting? Jeff, would you know what would you think as a date? 2 weeks from now? 3 weeks?
It's a great question, Guy. It's a great question because I'm not sure what our next steps are unless we're on the same page. You know, I think Alain asked the question earlier if there was information that was needed to do that. You know, obviously, there's a recommendation going to the expansion committee, and you know, I don't know when they're meeting and what reaction will be, what action they'll take. So I say stay tuned, and we'll meet as soon as we can relative to new information coming forward, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you for clarifying that. Trevor, did you have a question or a comment?
Apologies, I was just giving a thumbs up to the setting a date when we had more information.
Very good. Okay, the recommendation will be going to the Mariner Center Expansion Committee, and then we'll, I guess, wait for the response from there, and we'll move forward. Like was said, there is, you know, we're looking to move forward on this, and if somebody, I may as well be point blank. If somebody doesn't want to move forward, may they speak so right now, because I don't feel that this committee has to go and first thing say, how will I say that? Drop down on our knees or say, are you with us? Are you not with us? Or what's going on? I think to move forward is to go into the Mariner Center Expansion Committee, and then if there's some decisions to be made there, we'll go. If somebody says no, then hey, we're not moving forward. But certainly the motion was made, and we've passed it here, and we're moving forward. That's all I can say. So we'll let everybody know when's the next meeting is, and we'll go from there.
Chair,
Yes,
Chair, CEO Brooks has her hand up.
Oh, did she? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thanks,
Theo
Mr.
Brooks?
Chair. Thanks. So I just thought I'd share a little bit, maybe just to the question around timing. So if Lindsay or Jeff, I'm not sure who, could just get something out to Vicky, we'll make sure it gets in John's hands, and then he can call a meeting of the main committee. And this council meets next Wednesday. So if we could get things lined up, then in the interest of time and in the interest of respecting where we're at in the conversation today, we can do our part to provide those answers that you had referred to, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Appreciate that, CEO Brooks. Okay. If not, I'll entertain now a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded
A
by
seconder?
Daniel.
Good, very good. Second, all those in favor, signify by saying or raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, my name. Thank you,
everybody.
everybody, for coming.